There's a wealth of beautiful knotwork and designs in the ancient manuscripts. Today, I'm going to show you how to recreate one. Coming right up. Hello everyone, I'm Carrie Buziak of AON Celtic Art. I'm a published author and a Celtic artist teaching modern techniques in ancient art. I've been teaching these techniques for my website for the last 25 years, as well in my book, Creating Celtic Knotwork by Dover Publications. Before we get started today, don't forget, subscribe to my channel and ring that bell so you're kept up to date on new tutorials when they come out. Today we're going to cover how to recreate a border from the Book of Durrow, one of the 3 main Celtic manuscripts. Examining these old manuscripts is a wonderful activity. I mean, to see what they were able to do in the old days without even electric lights, let alone what we can do today with computers, is really awe-inspiring. I believe this really helps keep the heritage aspect of our art form alive, and as well helps you as a Celtic artist. Learning how to examine these designs and break them down so you can reconstruct them really helps you understand this art form and will help you in your own work so you can anticipate and see where things are going, so you can plan your design ahead of time rather than being a surprise at the end. We'll be using the AON dot paper today. I'll include a link in the comments below, so just go by my website, download a copy of that, print it off, and let's get started. To begin, let's start with some terminology. MS is the shorthand version for manuscript. Folio means a page. Verso refers to the left-hand pages. And recto means the right. And the easy way to remember that is recto has an R, the same as right. Recto, right. So here's the page that we'll be working on today. Book of Durrow, folio 124, verso. This time we'll be working on the upper portion of that border. I'll just zoom in here so we can see it a little better. Here's a close-up of that knot. In our other tutorials, we started with the grid pattern, added some walls, and that resulted in a design. To work backwards, where we're starting with the finished pattern and trying to figure out the grid or walls that would have been used to make it, you have to identify the areas that were changed. Changes to the pattern will show where walls were placed to create the design. So look at these 2 corner patterns. The left-hand corner has no walls, so this is how the weave would go with nothing to alter it. The right-hand pattern does have walls added, and that's what caused a break or a change in the design. You can see here it changed 3 times, once in the upright column, once in the corner, and then again on the bottom. Let's look at our border pattern now. We can see it's a series of repeating, almost pretzel-like shapes. In the middle, just to the right, there's also this little twist. I kind of like this little twist, so I'm going to include it in my breakdown. We need to look for areas in the design where the pattern was broken or changed. This would indicate areas where walls were placed to break that pattern. One clue that you can look out for are places where you can see a lot of the background pattern. So we see along the side of the pretzel here a continuous strip of background black, and that would mean a wall would have been placed there. I'm just marking those in blue on mine so you can see it against the background. We see to the right of the little twist, there's also another wall, which begins on the left-hand side of the next repeating pretzel portion. We can also see that the pattern is broken along the horizontal in between the 2 pretzels, so I'll add that wall in there as well. Now each little pretzel also has another wall inside. You can see that longer strip on the left and right of the pretzel, whereas in the middle you see we have 2 twists. Those lengthened parts on the left and right indicate there must be little walls hidden inside. Again, look for a continuous portion of background, the black, and we see it right there on the left and on the right-hand side of that inside twist. And I'll just copy that to the bottom portion. To continue breaking down the design, you have to think about what we know about knots. One thing we know is that 2 strands cross over each other on a little dot. So if we look in our border pattern, everywhere that 2 strands cross over each other must have a little dot. So I'll go ahead and add a small dot at that topmost intersection. And I can drop in a small dot on top of all the other intersections as well. And if you look closely, you'll see I've added all those small dots now on all the intersections. What else do we know about knots? We know that the big dots are always on the background portion, and then the knot strands bend around them. So in my border design, where I see background, I can add a big dot. So there's that one in the middle of the pretzel twist, one below the pretzel twist, and I can also see black peeking out to the right of our pretzel in that plain little twist, so I'll add those as well. We also know that our walls must start and stop on big dots only, so I can add those at the end of my walls as well. So let's move that down and take a look at it. We're very close to our grid shape, but we're going to have to do a little bit of tweaking with this design. Normally our dot grid goes big dot, little dot, big dot, little dot. But you can see our recreated portion is missing some dots. We have a big dot and then nothing. Should be a little dot. Now this doesn't mean we did something wrong when we were plotting it on the border pattern. I just find bringing it down, it makes it easier to see these missing dots than trying to plug them in on top of everything else that's going on. Whereas in the lower one, it's easier to see that we're just missing a small dot, a big dot, a small dot, and then another small dot between those two blue ones. And the bottom gaps can be filled in the same way. Now the reason why those walls inside our pretzel look so short is because those outer ones are actually two walls. It's a double length one. And if I add that big dot in the middle to show that it's a double length wall, we can see that it really starts to resemble our old dot paper patterns. I'll just change that to our normal gray dots and you can see what I mean. Now that all the dots are filled in, we can see that this design is 4 big dots wide by 6 big dots high. So if we want to redraw that on our normal grid paper, it would look like this. The manuscript dots are a little more compressed or tighter together, but it's essentially the same pattern. So let's blow that up a bit. That's the single segment, which when repeated would give us the following border. But in this breakdown, I added that side twist that we see on the right of the pretzels there in the middle. If we take those out, this is what our repeat would look like without it. Now I'm going to take our plain pretzel design and I'm going to weave it up as a border. We begin as we always do. Find a small dot and add a tipped over tic-tac-toe to it. Add your tic-tac-toes to all the small dots in the design. Next, add your corners along the upper and lower horizontal line, and then the bend along the bottom of your pretzels, along the center, and the one that goes upright in that interior twist of the pretzels as well. Add all those into your design. To begin our weaving, I'm going to start with that top left-hand pretzel, and I'll erase that as an over. The red arrow shows the direction that I'll be erasing in. If that was an over, my next one must be an under, and then an over, and then an under. Picking up from one of our finished intersections, the new red arrow shows how I'll continue. I'll do that as an under, and then an over, and you keep going until your whole design is done using that over-under pattern with your erasings. And I'll just erase all our dots and lines so you can see the finished border. Looking back now, we can see both borders that were made from the Book of Durrow. We've recreated it using our dot technique by going backwards from the manuscript examples. You can see a small variation in the height of the knots, but otherwise it translated pretty cleanly. As usual, I've included a PDF worksheet if you want to try these. There's a pretzel-only version as well as a pretzel with the twist in between, so you can try them both out. And don't forget that these and many more techniques are covered in my book, Creating Celtic Knotwork by Dover Publications. So that's the technique you would use if you wanted to break down a design from the old manuscripts and remake it yourself. Not all the knots in the manuscripts work well with this technique, but if you could sort of envision where those walls are, you could start to piece it together and give it a shot. And if this made your head blow up, don't worry about it. It's just a tool for your tool belt. It's not a must-have thing to do. You'll definitely be able to create lots of your own beautiful designs if you're not able to master this 100%. If you have any questions, of course, just leave them in the comments below and I'll answer as best I can. And don't forget, subscribe to my channel and ring the little bell so you're kept up to date on all future tutorials. And if you'd like to support my channel or my website, please check out my Patreon page. There's a whole bunch of different tiers there and you get all kinds of perks. That's it for this week, everyone. Bye!